Hi everyone. I have read your wiki submissions as well as your discussion board posts today and will provide feedback to you in the associated rubrics that go along with those assignments. With this video in the same email is going to be a link to the completed wiki. My hope in this assignment is that you would have a pretty good list of what your peers have read that they felt was valuable to their leadership development, with a brief synopsis about the books that were out there related to leadership. Lots and lots of good books were recommended, and several that I hadn't read. So it's always nice for me to kind of see what's out there and what you guys have found valuable. So there is going to be an attachment to this email that you can print and keep or use as a reference later if you're looking for some good leadership books. The discussion board about fractals is always an interesting one for me because it's interesting to see how you see the concept of fractals play out in your organizations. And even more interesting to see how you can relate the concept of fractals back to your spiritual walk. How does it relate to your religious practices? How do you see it working in your church community? For me, it's interesting to see your perspective on that. One of your classmates did a really good job of connecting the concept of fractals within the organizational setup as well as to our faith life. Christy, your classmate, wrote, "The application of fractals to the organizational chart for healthcare systems reinforce both the importance of relationship and collaboration within the organization. In a fractal organization, the organizational chart emphasizes the necessity of balance and interdependence among each organizational level, represents the structure of the organization, and recognizes the significance of the various parts or levels that make up the whole. As Christians, we are like the many parts that represent the whole." Matthew chapter 5, verse 16 says, "In the same way, let your light shine before others, so that you may see your good works and give glory to your Father who is in heaven. Therefore, just as in a fractal, the whole is seen and replicates in every part, so too should Christ be seen and replicated in us." I think Christy does a really nice job of really looking at the organizational structure and how vital it is that all of the pieces of the organization come together in harmony to make a whole. Everybody's got to be on the same page with the same goals, the same objectives, sharing a philosophy, and replicating what the overall organization looks like. It's the same way in our walk of faith. When we truly are shining the light of Christ, we are shining it not because we are the authentic owners or because we generate that light of Christ within ourselves. We're actually reflecting the light from Christ that is within us, and we're fractals of His heavenly gifts and His grace and His mercy when we're doing it well. So I think Christy did a really nice job pulling that together. Lots of good stuff. I always enjoy reading this post. From an AP standpoint, I just want to highlight some key areas that I'd like you to focus on. First and foremost, you guys are almost done with your graduate work. I'm going to remind you that as you write professional papers, you're going to want to synthesize what you have read and avoid, as much as possible, direct quotes. There are times that a direct quote is just extremely well worded, very precise and exactly the right words, and keeping it in its full context highlights and benefits your work. That's a zebra, not a horse. You're going to most often read content from articles and from authors and from bodies of work. You're going to think about how their comments relate to your paper that you're writing, and you're going to synthesize and paraphrase what you've read and apply it to a new context. And then you're going to use an in-text citation to give those authors credit for helping you organize your ideas. You want to avoid as much as possible direct quoting because it's a passive way of citing what you've read. At a graduate level, you need to be synthesizing, not just recognizing something's valuable, but being able to integrate it into a new format or add to an insight. When you are citing the Bible, one thing to remember, the Bible is considered to be a historic figure or historic source, and it is the other perspective of the Bible is that it is a personal communication from God through His authors to us. whichever way you look at it, the Bible is not cited in your reference list. You're always going to do your in-text citations with your book, chapter, and verses, but then you're not going to add the source of the Bible, whether you are using a print version of the Bible, whether you're using an online source for the Bible, whether you're using a study Bible. All of that is considered biblical works. It is not necessary to cite those in your reference list. You do use the in-text citation, but not in your reference list. Think through writing concisely. One of the challenges with the wiki is I recommended that you write about 50 words. That wasn't because I didn't think you'd have fabulous things to say about the book you read. It was to help you really refine what you needed to say. And the discussion boards go along the same way. Those word guides are really there to help you be crisp and concise in your writing. There's always a way to expound on your concepts, and you can take a very simple concept that should be covered in 3 or 4 pages, and you can make it a dozen pages if you really want to. But that's not really the best example of scholarly writing. You want to write short, concise sentences, and you want to write short, concise papers. So the idea is to convey your ideas clearly and succinctly in the most efficient way possible, and you do that by watching out for wordiness, by avoiding extraneous information that isn't relevant to the topic. Sometimes there's great stories or neat ideas that go along with the concept, but they're not really related to what you're being asked to write about. So when you write a paper, go back through and compare what you've written to the rubric. Go back through and ask yourself, have I, first and foremost, addressed what I'm being asked in the assignment? And then highlight areas that don't directly address what you're being asked and ask yourself, is this necessary? The other great idea is to have somebody else read your paper, give them the rubric, give them the paper, and say, did I do what I was supposed to do? That really helps them, your editor or your proofreader, know what were you supposed to do, and having a fresh set of eyes is always fabulous. I used to tease my husband. He read so many of my master's and doctoral papers. His name really should be on the degree with mine between his comments and his edits. It's great to have a fresh pair of eyes, and that helps you really work towards concise writing. What I have found very often when students aren't really following page guidelines, it's that they start to wander. They get excited about a topic, or they get energized about a certain perspective of a paper, and they begin to wander off topic. So they wind up writing 2 and 3 pages about things that really aren't necessary and don't really support the purpose of the assignment. So I do want you to be writing concisely. That is an expectation of APA writing and graduate level writing. So practice that skill now so that when you have graduated, it's something that you fine-tuned. DOIs. Each of your articles either needs the DOI or the URL. So if there is no DOI, you need to make sure there's no DOI. And if there isn't, then you're going to look for the URL, and you're going to use the URL as the location finder for your article. Want to remind you that if you're going to use a URL, use the abbreviated URL. Back it up to the search engine so you have about 1 line of the URL, not all of the embedded code. That if you copy a URL, especially if you're using the Falwell Library online, if you copy that URL, can be 4 to 5 lines. You want to back it up to about 1 line that includes the search engine that you've used. If you do not find a DOI, ask yourself first and foremost, is this a scholarly source? Most scholarly sources within the last 5 years have gotten in to the habit or the requirement to add a DOI as part of their way of categorizing their articles. If it doesn't have a DOI, ask yourself, is this a peer-reviewed scholarly journal? And if you're certain that it is, there are a few international journals, a few smaller journals that are here in the US that don't use DOIs yet. But it's a first question you should ask yourself is, am I using a reputable source? Then if you're sure it's reputable, you're sure it's scholarly and peer-reviewed, and there's still no DOI, then you're going to use an abbreviated URL. Again, we're back to a zebra, not a horse. Those should be rare. And if you're struggling to find DOIs, there's some resources in the additional information section that's a cross-ref link that you can use to put in the name of your article, and it will generate a search engine. It'll just make sure that there's no DOI. It'll help you make it a little bit easier. This week, you're working on part 1 of your quality project for nurse leaders. I'm going to encourage you really to sit down and make a list, hopefully a short list, of quality issues in your organization. The quality issue that you're going to focus on for this project should be a current issue that is being addressed, not one that is resolved. This needs to be an ongoing quality issue. Part 1 is going to be your exploration of, this is the quality issue that my organization is dealing with. This is the magnitude, so you should have some data to support, yes, this is an issue and this is how bad the issue is. And then you're going to talk about how it's currently being addressed. What are the interventions currently in place to address the issue? Part 2 is going to be taking a critical look at the same quality issue and you making a recommendation on an evidence-based practice improvement. You're going to take, if you're looking at falls and you're going to say, my organization is doing this right now, you're going to go into the literature and you're going to look for an innovative way that your peers in industry are using to address falls, something that's not already being used in your organization. So you have to have a really clear understanding of what your quality issue is, that it's of significant issues, that it's the topic of conversation nowadays, that you have some data to support that it's an issue. And then your part 2 is going to be how you would recommend a practice change that's innovative to address the ongoing issue. The idea is to help you not just think about what everyone's telling you about a quality issue, but to get you in the literature and to get you thinking about ways that you can positively improve a quality issue. Nurse leaders are called on all the time to address quality issues in their organization, and we need to role model using evidence-based practice to address our quality issues, not just the things that we hear through the grapevine or the things that people recommend at office meetings that don't really have good evidence and good science and good results to support it. So that's the idea with this assignment. From an APA writing standpoint, this assignment is pretty complex. You should have level 1 and level 2 headings at a minimum in this paper. Depending on how granular you get in your organization, you may also have level 3, but at least a level 1 and level 2 should be in there. You're going to want to use current information and properly cite the sources that you're using to support your explanation and your details of your quality issues. If you have questions or concerns, touch base and let me know, and I'm happy to address them or help walk you through those issues. I think that's it. I was checking my notes to make sure there was nothing else. As you go through this week, as things come up, if you have questions or concerns, general things about the who, what, when, where, hows, use the Ask the Professor link. If there's something specific to you, to your grade, to your experience, that's personal, please send me those comments or questions by email. I'm happy to chat with you. Know that I'm here. I know that I'm praying for you. I know that what you're doing is huge, and I also know that from looking at your introductions, you guys are a busy group of people. You've got lots and lots of little people, lots of dogs, lots of pets. I went through and looked at the pictures. Those of you that felt comfortable sending pictures, was so grateful to see. Put faces with names. You all are some very pretty people with some very pretty 2- and 4-legged babies. I think my very favorite pictures came from your classmate Ingrid. It is so worth your while to go click on her welcome message just to have a snapshot of beautiful Alaska. I told her that I wanted to come visit and have her give me a tour of Alaska. It's absolutely stunning. Sadly, she's leaving there in December, and I probably can't coordinate a trip to Alaska that quick. But so appreciate you all sharing these snapshots of your world to help me get to know you and put faces with names. I know you'll get these videos from me, and you're like, you have a pretty good sense of who I am, or at least what I look like. So I'm grateful that you were willing to avail yourself to share pictures of the people in the life that's important to you. And for those of you that shared pictures of the places you've been, I appreciate the free travel tour this morning. Touch base and let me know how you are. Let me know how I can support you and serve you. I'll look forward to seeing part 1 and providing feedback early next week, and get feedback to you as quick as I can. Y'all take care.